The grand corridors of Buckingham Palace and the historic stone walls of Windsor Castle have stood for centuries as enduring symbols of tradition, continuity, and public stoicism. For generations, the British royal family has operated under an unwritten code of absolute discretion, presenting a united front to a global audience that watches their every move with intense fascination. Yet, beneath the glittering surface of state banquets, ceremonial processions, and impeccably orchestrated public appearances, lies a deeply human narrative fraught with personal vulnerabilities, unspoken grievances, and profound emotional fractures. The crown demands a sacrifice that few outside the immediate lineage can ever truly comprehend, often forcing a stark division between the public duties of a sovereign and the private desires of a parent or a sibling. Over the last several years, the entire world has borne witness to an unprecedented unraveling of these private dynamics, transforming what was once a hidden domestic struggle into a highly publicized, deeply polarizing global spectacle. Every whisper from within the palace walls is analyzed by millions, every formal statement parsed for hidden meanings, and every public absence interpreted as a sign of deeper discord. It is within this atmospheric pressure cooker of history, duty, and intense media scrutiny that the modern House of Windsor must navigate its most complex challenges, proving that even the most powerful institutions are ultimately vulnerable to the fragile nature of human relationships. As the seasons change and the relentless march of time forces a natural evolution within the monarchy, the deep-seated tensions that have defined recent royal history continue to cast a long, lingering shadow over the future of the institution. The origins of this historic divide can be traced back to a series of monumental shifts that fundamentally altered the landscape of the contemporary British monarchy, sending shockwaves through international headlines. When the decision was made in early 2020 to step back from senior royal duties, it marked the beginning of an era characterized by intense estrangement, mutual misunderstanding, and a highly vocal crossfire played out across the world stage. What followed was a turbulent sequence of public revelations, raw emotional confessions, and unprecedented media projects that further widened the chasm between the United Kingdom and the sunny shores of California. The painful memories of televised interviews, highly anticipated literary memoirs, and continuous public commentary left a bitter aftertaste within the royal household, establishing what many believe to be a permanent state of hostility. For years, the distance between the two factions seemed entirely insurmountable, with brief, formal encounters at historic state events doing very little to mend the deep emotional wounds that had been inflicted on both sides. The public watched with a mixture of curiosity and sadness as a once inseparable family unit operated as entirely separate entities, divided not just by thousands of miles of ocean, but by a seemingly unbridgeable gulf of trust. Before we delve deeper into the extraordinary sequence of events that has recently begun to unfold behind closed palace doors, take a brief moment to support the channel by subscribing, ensuring you never miss an in-depth analysis of the stories shaping our world. As the years have passed, the relentless nature of time has brought about profound changes within the royal structure, forcing a natural reevaluation of priorities, legacies, and the ultimate value of family cohesion. The transition of power and the arrival of a new era of leadership have naturally placed a heavier emphasis on the long-term stability of the monarchy, while also bringing the fragile human elements of its members into sharp focus. When faced with the undeniable reality of aging, unexpected health battles, and the immense, isolating weight of sovereign responsibility, the perspective of a monarch inevitably shifts from the rigid maintenance of institutional barriers toward a more profound contemplation of personal legacy and familial peace. A father's quiet yearning to see his grandchildren grow, to witness the continuation of his lineage in a spirit of harmony rather than bitter conflict, begins to weigh heavily against the strict protocols that have historically governed royal behavior. The younger generation, growing up far away from the ancient palaces and ceremonial traditions of their ancestral homeland, represents a living bridge to a future that remains unwritten, a future that could either be defined by a permanent, generational rift or by a courageous, hard-fought reconciliation. The subtle shifts in tone, the quiet exchanges during rare moments of privacy, and the gradual softening of long-held stances all point toward an underlying truth that many often forget, which is that behind the grand titles, this is ultimately a family grappling with the universal themes of forgiveness, pride, and the deep-seated desire to heal before it is too late. Now, a quiet but undeniable shift is taking place behind the heavily guarded gates of the royal residences, signaling what could be the most significant turning point in modern royal history. Whispers of a dramatic and unexpected transformation in communication have begun to emerge, hinting at a profound willingness to look past the grievances of the past in favor of building a safe, secure, and harmonious future for the next generation. The complex machinery of the palace, which for years had been deployed to maintain a strict distance and manage the fallout of an ongoing domestic Cold War, is reportedly being recalibrated to facilitate an event that many thought would never happen. A series of private discussions, held away from the prying eyes of the global press, has quietly laid the groundwork for a stunning development that promises to rewrite the narrative of estrangement that has dominated the headlines for over half a decade. The sheer logistics of managing an international return, combined with the incredibly sensitive nature of personal security and public perception, have required a level of cooperation and delicate negotiation that indicates a genuine, deep-seated desire for peace. As the second week of July approaches, bringing with it a highly anticipated series of international events, the world stands on the absolute precipice of a monumental shift that could either permanently mend the broken bonds of this historic dynasty or expose the final, unyielding boundaries of their separation. The stage is fully set for an extraordinary chapter to be written in the annals of the House of Windsor, an event that will challenge everything we thought we knew about the endurance of royal rifts and the ultimate power of an unconditional fatherly outreach. The quiet murmurs echoing through the corridors of power have finally materialized into concrete action, revealing a shocking and unprecedented development that has left royal observers absolutely stunned. King Charles III, in an extraordinary display of magnanimity and paternal devotion, has reportedly extended a significant olive branch to his estranged son, Prince Harry, and daughter-in-law, Meghan Markle. After years of intense public strain and emotional distance, the 77-year-old monarch, who has had to balance the immense burdens of statehood with personal health challenges over the past year, has officially invited the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to stay at a prominent royal residence during their highly anticipated return to the United Kingdom next month. This gesture is not merely a polite formality or a superficial public relations maneuver, but rather a deeply calculated and emotionally significant effort to dismantle the high walls of isolation that have defined family relations since the historic events of 2020. By offering a secure sanctuary within the royal estate, the king is actively attempting to create a neutral ground where private conversations can occur without the immediate threat of media intrusion, offering a direct lifeline to a son who has spent years defending his choice to walk away from the rigid structures of the institution. What makes this development even more extraordinary and adds an intense layer of logistical complexity to the upcoming visit is the revelation that the sovereign has also offered specific, comprehensive security arrangements for the Sussexes and their young children, 7-year-old Prince Archie and 5-year-old Princess Lilibet. For years, the issue of personal safety has been an absolute battleground, serving as one of the primary catalysts for the ongoing bitterness between Prince Harry and the British establishment. Following their high-profile departure from active royal duties, the Duke and Duchess were systematically stripped of their taxpayer-funded protection privileges, a decision that plunged Harry into a protracted, highly stressful legal conflict with the Home Office. The prince has repeatedly and passionately argued that he did not feel safe bringing his young family back to his native England, citing well-documented and terrifying neo-Nazi and extremist threats that had targeted his wife, who is biracial, and their children. The fear of vulnerability in a country that once promised absolute security created a deep psychological barrier, making any potential family reunion seem entirely impossible. By directly intervening and offering royal security arrangements for this upcoming journey, King Charles has effectively removed the single largest obstacle preventing his grandchildren from setting foot on British soil, demonstrating a profound willingness to prioritize family unity over bureaucratic protocol. The stakes surrounding this high-profile return could not possibly be higher, as the second week of July approaches with an intensity that has the entire international press corps on high alert. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are preparing to travel across the Atlantic from their private estate in California, bringing their children with them for a series of carefully coordinated public events tied directly to the upcoming Invictus Games. This trip will mark an incredibly historic milestone, as young Archie and Lilibet have not visited the United Kingdom since the late Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee celebrations in June of 22. While Meghan's last appearance in the country occurred under the somber atmosphere of the late monarch's funeral 3 months later. The sheer passage of time has only amplified the emotional distance, making the prospect of their physical presence in London a highly charged narrative. Behind the scenes, these reported new conditions have been described by palace insiders as a necessary foundation that allows a safe and stable return to finally take place, shifting the conversation from public grievance to practical reconciliation. The fact that the father and son are now said to be speaking regularly on the phone hints at a gradual, fragile thawing of an icy relationship that many experts had previously declared completely dead. However, beneath the surface of this apparent breakthrough lies a profound undercurrent of tension and unresolved history that threatens to complicate every single interaction during the visit. The scars left by the events surrounding their departure, colloquially dubbed Megxit by the global media, still run incredibly deep within the collective memory of the royal household. The explosive and deeply damaging interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2021, followed closely by the raw, unvarnished revelations contained within the prince's 23 autobiography, created wounds that cannot be healed by a single invitation. Palace staff and senior members of the family remember the intense scrutiny and public criticism that followed those revelations, establishing a deep-seated culture of caution and mistrust that will be incredibly difficult to overcome. While the king and his younger son have made demonstrable strides toward communication, including a brief, highly private meeting over tea in London last September, the true test will be how the rest of the family adapts to their physical presence. The upcoming weeks will force all participants to navigate a minefield of public expectations and private anxieties, where every single gesture, glance, and shared space will be analyzed for signs of lingering resentment or genuine forgiveness, keeping the entire world on the edge of its seat as this royal drama unfolds. The true weight of this impending reunion extends far beyond the immediate joy of a fractured family catching up over private tea, as it carries profound historical implications for the ultimate legacy of the contemporary British monarchy. For King Charles III, who ascended the throne at a historic turning point in global history, the ongoing public estrangement of his younger son has remained a persistent, deeply painful vulnerability that has frequently overshadowed the broader achievements of his early reign. A sovereign's primary stability is to project absolute stability, continuity, and unity to a nation that relies heavily on the crown as a symbol of permanent national identity. However, the continuous, highly visible conflict with the California-based Duke and Duchess of Sussex has threatened to undermine this very perception, presenting a narrative of internal vulnerability that direct critics of the institution have been quick to exploit. By stepping forward at this specific moment to offer a safe, secure, and officially protected return for his family, the king is sending a powerful message that the enduring strength of the crown lies not in rigid exclusion, but in its profound capacity for reconciliation, grace, and eventual healing. This journey stands as a critical litmus test for whether the bitter wounds of the past can be systematically repaired, or if the ideological differences between the traditional palace lifestyle and the independent path chosen by the Sussexes have permanently altered the family dynamic. The lives of the participants in this historic royal drama have been defined by a sequence of extraordinary milestones, making this potential turning point an essential chapter in their respective biographies. King Charles III, who spent a record-breaking number of decades preparing for his ultimate role as sovereign, has spent his entire existence balancing the strict demands of royal service with the deeply personal challenges of raising a family under the relentless glare of international public scrutiny. His younger son, Prince Harry, born into a life of absolute privilege but also unimaginable personal tragedy, has lived a life marked by intense public service, military dedication, and a fierce, deeply ingrained desire to protect his immediate family from the very forces that he believes destroyed his late mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. Meghan Markle, whose entry into the royal family initially symbolized a vibrant, inclusive, and modernizing force for the ancient institution, brought a unique perspective as a successful, self-made American actress who was entirely unaccustomed to the deeply entrenched protocols of the British establishment. This subsequent clash of cultures, expectations, and media philosophies culminated in their historic departure, a move that permanently shifted the trajectory of their lives and established an entirely new paradigm for what it means to be a modern global public figure outside the direct confines of the royal fold, as the second week of July draws near, bringing with it a profound sense of anticipation and global interest. The precise nature of the interactions that will take place behind closed doors remains the subject of intense international speculation. While reports indicate that the father and son have established a regular rhythm of telephone communication, the true variable of this upcoming visit centers around the potential interactions between the former actress and her royal father-in-law, a dynamic that reps for both sides have pointedly refused to comment on. The complex reality is that a successful family reconciliation requires more than just logistical agreements and security arrangements. It demands a fundamental, highly sensitive restoration of personal trust that has been severely eroded by years of public commentary, literary exposes, and deep personal recriminations. The young children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, who have grown up entirely isolated from the majestic castles, rolling estates, and historic traditions of their father's homeland, represent a clean slate in this complicated narrative, serving as a powerful reminder of the ultimate purpose behind this monumental parental outreach. Whether this historic return serves as the quiet beginning of a genuine long-term familial restoration or simply represents a brief, practical truce, amidst an ongoing generational separation, the eyes of the entire world will remain firmly fixed on London.